We begin with the Senate passing a historic bill on climate change, taxes, and on health care. And it may get passed by the House and signed by President Biden as early as this week. Vice President Kamala Harris cast the tie-breaking vote after every single one of the 50 Republican senators in the Senate voted against it.
The yeas are 50, the nays are 50. The Senate being equally divided, the Vice President votes in the affirmative, and the bill, as amended, is passed.
You can understand those cheers when you consider that the bill includes the biggest investment ever in the history of our country, nearly $370 billion to fight climate change, a cap on prescription drugs costs for older Americans, and a new minimum tax rate for some big corporations. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer celebrated the accomplishment after the bill's passage.
We've changed the world. I am really confident that the Inflation Reduction Act will endure as one of the defining feats of the 21st century.
We've changed the world, Schumer said. The bill also helps to change the narrative around President Biden's ability to pass his agenda from one of failures, filibusters, and frustration to a list of legislative successes that includes the American Rescue Plan, bipartisan infrastructure deal, and the first new gun law in 30 years. Wow. Making this one of the most consequential presidential terms since LBJ in the 1960s. Starting us off, Jamie Harrison, chairman of the DNC. Thank you so much for being here. It's great to see you.
It is always great seeing you, Zerlina. Thank you for having me.
So lay out for us what's in the bill and what is the significance of the Inflation Reduction Act for the lives of ordinary Americans out there?
Well, let me first start off by saying this is a big, big deal. You know, Democrats are taking action in this bill to lower the cost for families across the country and to tackle inflation, reduce the deficit, and finally, to really start in terms of addressing climate change at the level that we need to. When we think about how we lower costs in this bill for families, Zerlina, we make prescription drugs cheaper by allowing Medicare to negotiate those lower prices. We lower health insurance costs for almost 13 million Americans by an average of almost $800 a year. We lower energy costs. And this is all paid for by requiring those big corporations to pay their fair share of taxes. So this is a huge deal for the American people. The sad part is that it had to be done with only Democratic vote. Republicans tried everything that they could. They tried to pull out every trick in the book in order to derail this bill. They even, and they were successful in doing this, in terms of bringing down the cost of insulin. And I know many of those senators, including my senators, Tim Scott and Lindsey Graham. You know, South Carolina is like the buckle of the diabetes belt. So there would have been hundreds of thousands of people in the state and their families who would have been impacted by lower costs on insulin. But despite the Republican obstruction, Democrats have continued to deliver. And this is at the end of a whole list of things that this president and the Democrats in the House and the Senate have been able to deliver over the course of the past few years.
There's a lot to say about just the last couple of weeks of the Biden administration. Can you speak to the idea that perhaps President Biden's been underestimated? Because, you know, as I said, 3 weeks ago, Build Back Better was dead, and it didn't look like the Democrats were going to be able to get anything done here. But now they took out Osama bin Laden's number 2. That was last week. And this week, they can come to the American people with a big legislative package. I mean, talk about the historic nature of being able to do this, given the fact that they have a 50-50. It's 50-50 still. It's not like they got any more votes to work with. It's just 50-50, and they've been able to do this.
Well, and when you put it in that historical context, I know you mentioned LBJ earlier. You know, LBJ had massive majorities in the House and the Senate. Joe Biden has less than a 5-seat majority in the House and is a 50-50 United States Senate. And he's been able to probably achieve more than what you see some presidents accomplish in 2 terms. And he's been able to do that in 2 years. So think about what we can do as Democrats if we get more votes in the United States Senate, if we keep our majorities in the House. You know, the one thing that I hope people learn is, and they should have learned this in the presidential primary process in 2020, don't bet against Joe Biden. Even when the clouds are gloomy and gray and you think things dark and it can't get any better, Joe Biden is able to pull victory out and achieve so much. He did it in the presidential election, and he's doing it right now as president of the United States. When you think about this, you know, the CHIPS Act, which is investing in we got that done. The PACT Act, making sure that our veterans are getting the health care benefits. Gas prices have declined for 8 straight weeks. Unemployment is now at a 50-year low, 3.5%. This is the best job market in the history of this nation. First time in 30 years, a meaningful gun violence bill, Violence Against Women Act reauthorized. I mean, I can go on and on. The first Black woman on the United States Supreme Court. All of this has been done in 2 years by this president with less than 5-seat majority in the House and a 50-50 U.S. Senate. I have to say, that's a pretty doggone good right there.
My next question was going to be, how do you message all of the policies that the Democrats have just passed? But you just did that. So instead, I'm going to ask you about Republican obstruction. How do Democrats message around the idea that Republicans are blocking a lot of the tangible benefits that you just talked about?
You know, our superpower in the Democratic Party is hope and aspiration and fighting for the American people. The Republicans' superpower is fear and fraud. That's all they have, Zerlina. You saw that on the floor of the United States Senate, trying to come up with all kinds of things to stop this bill because they're in the pockets of the billionaires in this country. But we are fighting for the American people. So they can put up all the roadblocks. You know, they fought against the price gouging bill. They fought against lowering the cost of insulin. They fought against even some of these veteran bills. We saw them celebrating defeating the veterans bill. But guess what we did? We galvanized the forces and we got that legislation done. They're celebrating right now the fact that they were able to get Roe versus Wade kicked out of the Supreme Court and as the law of the land in this country. But you know what? We are going to galvanize the people. We saw it in Kansas, and we're going to see it all over this country. People are standing up, they're waking up, and they are not going to be silent at the ballot box in November.
You mentioned the Supreme Court decision in Dobbs overturning Roe versus Wade. Do you think that that decision can galvanize the base of the Democratic Party? Black and brown women are the most impacted by that particular ruling. What's the message on that issue?
I think, you know, the perfect example to see what that Dobbs decision, the rejection of Roe by the Supreme Court, how that is going to impact the body politic, is just take a look at what happened in Kansas. You know, there's that famous book, about Kansas and the Republican Party taking the heart of conservatism in those states. But look at what happened in Kansas. A vast majority of the people who went to the polls in Kansas rejected Republican extremism as it relates to reproductive freedom. And so we're going to see that same type of thing, I believe, across this country, because women and men and Democrats and some Republicans and independents are all going to stand up and say, we reject that extremism, that in this country, freedom actually means something to us. And we're going to stand up to defend that freedom from the radical right-wing MAGA stuff that we're seeing from the Republican Party and from the Supreme Court.
DNC Chair Jamie Harrison, thank you so much for being here today and starting us off. Please stay safe.
Hi, I'm Zerlina Maxwell. Thanks for checking out our channel on YouTube. You can see more from Zerlina by clicking any of the videos on this screen, and make sure you subscribe below to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. Thanks for watching.